Good afternoon or good morning to all of you, and welcome to the Iroquois Valley Farmland REIT Annual Meeting. As we start today, I'm going to make some opening remarks, and then we'll go over some corporate business based on the proxy information that you shareholders have received. We will continue the meeting and give you an update on our strategic planning direction, and then highlight some examples of how we can work with some of our newer farmers. Please note that we are recording this meeting, and the presentation will be available on our website after we have concluded today. We should also have time for questions and answers at the end of our presentation. When Dave Miller and I founded this company in 2007, I had been practicing emergency medicine for over 30 years. And during that time, I became alarmed by the changing patterns of disease in our population. Type 2 diabetes, formerly called adult onset diabetes, was showing up in the emergency room with increased frequency and as early as 10-year-old children. I noticed dramatic increases in food allergies. Obesity was becoming epidemic, with a concomitant hypertension and heart disease. Cancer rates had climbed to include every other male and every third female. Pediatric cancer rates became the second most common cause of death in children. Neurologic disorders and the spectrum of autism rapidly increased. All the while, the cost of medicine escalated to unsustainable levels and continues to do so. My intellectual curiosity and family health concerns led me to reach out to a functional medicine doctor for another perspective. And his invaluable experience and education gave me the aha insight about the role of our food and our health. As a physician trained in traditional Western medicine, I realized that we physicians do almost nothing about food as medicine. That insight changed my medical practice and led me to a clearer understanding of the basis of our diseases in this country and the costs of medicine. I comprehend that the cause of poor health is inflammation, and that almost all of our inflammatory processes, as well as 85% of our immune response, is controlled by our gut microbiome. I came to know that our foods, saturated in herbicides and pesticide poisons, destroy our gut microbiome, which leads to chronic inflammation and most of our diseases, and therefore our costs. The Millikan Institute published in 2 papers in 2018, one on chronic disease in America, and the second on our obesity crisis. These findings map out the staggering economic impact of obesity and chronic disease, most of which is caused by our current food system. As of 2016, the direct healthcare costs for chronic health conditions was $1.1 trillion. Adding the indirect costs and the loss of income and productivity, the increasing costs of caregivers, and that total cost rises to $3.7 trillion. This does not include the cost of the current destructive food system has on our environment. This number is expected to triple in the next 10 years. Extrapolating this at the present increasing disease rates, the cost of chronic disease over the next 35 years will reach $95 trillion, or more than the gross domestic production of the entire planet. Since almost all of our disease is food-related, the most effective and meaningful way to fix this crisis is changing our food system to organic. The time to act, to invest in organic farming, is more important now than when we first began this company. Stopping the poisoning of our food, water, and air by big ag would go a long way to restoring our health and the health of this planet. But growing healthy, nutrient-dense, poison-free food with organic farming is even more important. We do not produce enough organic food in this country to feed this country, much less the poorest of the population. I believed then in 2007 that only a grassroots movement to increase the number of acres producing organic food and increasing its availability to all would be the solution to our healthcare crisis. Much has been written and researched about this since David and I began Iroquois Valley, supporting this idea. Growing up in rural Illinois as young men, both Dave and I were profoundly moved by the courageous story written by Rachel Carson, Silent Spring, which outlined in extensive detail the destruction that is happening to our planet from farming chemicals sprayed on the land. Years later, after discussions with his organically farming family members, we met Harold Wilkin and his son Ross, a conventional farmer who wanted to farm organically in Iroquois County, one county south of where Dave and I grew up. We began to talk to family and friends and anyone who would listen to invest in our idea and belief, and then purchased our first farm in the beautiful Iroquois Valley. 2 years later, and because of investors like you, we were able to purchase our second farm for his family. It was the beginning of what would eventually become Iroquois Valley Farmland REIT. And I can't thank you enough, our investors, enough for your faith and your trust in our mission. Taking inspiration from and trying to honor the great nations of indigenous people who live now and who lived on these lands before us, we intended that our company would live for many generations and would make decisions that would benefit the people and the earth for 7 generations to come, because we perceived it will take time to change our mindset, our habits, our political attitudes, and our economics. We prayed that Iroquois Valley would become a hopeful and meaningful solution to many of these issues, including healthy food and water, a more just economy in agriculture, and the inclusivity of all peoples. We are pleased that there are now 6,000 organic acres in Iroquois County, including the farm purchased by Iroquois Valley for Ross Wilkin. Harold and Ross have also started an organic grain mill, and Harold has been lauded for being one of the leaders in organic farming in the United States. After forming a public benefit and organic focused REIT and scaling to 100 million of assets, David stepped down 2 years ago as CEO and co-chairman to pursue more community capital farmland endeavors. Recently, we've also taken steps to better align our work with the work of another related 501c3 nonprofit, the Healing Soils Foundation, by making Iroquois Valley Farmland REIT the nonprofit's sole member. This change in the nonprofit's governance will galvanize more support for our work and for our farmers. I am very excited about these accomplishments and their collective impact on our health. At about that same time, we as board members elected Dr. Anna Jones-Crabtree, a PhD farmer, to the role of vice chairman. I believe the time is right for me to step down as board chairman, and I'm delighted that Anna has accepted my very enthusiastic endorsement to step in as board chairperson. And I'm looking forward to working with her and the rest of the board to continue Iroquois Valley's amazing legacy and impact. Before I end, I want to acknowledge and thank from the bottom of my heart Arnie Lau, who was also retiring from his present role on the staff in the company. He's been a most valuable person for the growth of our company, and I feel certain that Dave and I could not have gotten this far without him. Happily, Arnie will remain actively involved on the board of directors for some years to come. And it's now with some great pleasure that I introduce Dr. Anna Jones-Crabtree.
Thank you, Doc. From one doctor to another, I am honored to carry the work forward that you and Dave had the courage to start over 16 years ago. Thank you so very much, Dr. Rivard, for your courage. Your specialty is emergency medicine. Mine is sustainable systems. Regardless of our medical or engineering training, we have a deeply shared vision. That is a vision of vibrant, healthy ecosystems and healthy food that enable healthy humans. We both know organic agriculture is the foundation for making this vision reality, and I commit to expanding the circle of those who hold this shared vision, because we still have a lot of work to do together. Currently, in the US, less than 1% of our agricultural land is certified organic, and Iroquois Valley provides a unique container that enables investors, farmers, donors, and staff to work together on the shared goal of cultivating certified organic land stewardship over the long run. Doc, I just want to thank you for your audacity to actually think that the ideas of the Hippocratic Oath apply to our agricultural lands as well as our bodies. As an engineer who loves systems thinking, I know that those are one and the same. As an organic farmer, I will continue to hold close the notion of first do no harm. Iroquois Valley is a remarkable company doing transformative work. Thank you for setting the foundation for that. Collectively, all of us, we need more than ever to build on the momentum that Doc and Dave started. The new normal is life on a planet with an unstable climate. All farmers, organic or not, are on the front lines of this challenge. For those of us in the Northern Great Plains, 2023 is looking much better than 2021 and 2022, where we suffered record-breaking drought 2 years in a row. And as I talk to you today, our farm team is busy harvesting peas and barley that we intercropped. I'm a little sad I'm not out there in the field with them, but I'm so happy to be here with all of you, because it actually feels really good to have crop running through a combine after last year when we harvested less than we actually seeded. We've actually got rye in the bin now that's going to 2 distilleries in Montana, and I was just coordinating the toll processing yesterday. We want to talk about long-term investment, work with the distilleries. Doug and I started our farm from scratch 15 seasons ago. We knew it was going to be an adventure and a challenge, but we really had no idea. We had heard about Iroquois Valley early, and then we dated Dave Miller for over 7 years before we convinced him to work farther afield in the Midwest. So thank you so very much, Arnie and Andy, for making that first land purchase for us happen. Iroquois Valley has been transformative to our ability to bring more land under a life-giving production system and bring more people to our team in rural Montana, which allowed us to integrate grazing into our farming system 4 years ago. And I also want to thank Claire for her care, listening, and support that you've provided as our relationship manager. It has been great fun and a real honor to grow with you and Iroquois Valley. So after the last 2 years, my sense of urgency for faster systems transformation towards climate solutions has exponentially grown. We have 1 generation to assure our survival on this planet. This beautiful blue marble, planet Earth, needs us to work with her. Organic agriculture fosters that collaboration. Doc and Dave didn't wait to take action, and we shouldn't either. The science is totally clear. When you compare organic farms to conventional farms, organic farms are climate solutions. Compared to conventional farms, organic farms emit 18% less global warming causing gases. Organic farms capture 44% more stable sequestered carbon and have 13% higher total organic matter. Organic farms release 40% fewer carbon emissions and use 61% less energy. Oh, and guess what? Organic farms also increase biodiversity by 30%. I could go on, but the thing about organic farms is they are more than just businesses. Businesses buy inputs, make something and sell it. That work can all go neatly on a spreadsheet. As a business owner, you have control over many variables. Not so for an organic farm. Organic farms are living, breathing organisms. Like diminishing coral reefs and polar bears, the ability for any one farm organism to be resilient is increasingly challenged, even overrun by circumstances outside of its control. Inside our farm gate, we do all we can on a daily basis to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties and display toughness. That's the definition of resilience according to the Oxford Language Dictionary. But you know what? Toughness isn't our problem. Most people don't have half the chutzpah farmers do. The challenge is that organic farmers can't include earth care as part of their profit and loss statements. Organic farmers know that overstepping nature's gifts of sunlight, soil, seeds puts us and our planetary system in peril. And yet, the capacity to stay in business often requires making decisions that are not in the long-term interest of all of us. Few others really understand the conundrum that this presents to those of us doing the work. Fortunately, the investors, staff, farmers, and donors who are part of Iroquois Valley understand this conundrum. Farmers can't solve climate crisis without long-term access to land and capital. Investors can't solve the climate crisis without farmers. The UN estimates that climate biodiversity and land degradation goals will be out of reach unless investments into nature-based solutions, of which organic farming is, quickly ramp up to more than double the current 154 billion a year. We need more than ever each other. We need more of us from all walks of life welcomed into our circle of collaboration. Nature welcomes diversity, and so should we. In fact, you can't have life without it. And who else do you all know that you can lean in with us? Do you have another farmer or investor or donor or potential team member in your circle? Let's get together to do the work. I am so grateful to have this opportunity to work with all of you on transforming agriculture. So, as a pragmatic farmer, let's definitely get to work, and we have an annual meeting to get to. So, here we go. Good afternoon. The 2023 annual meeting of the stockholders of Iroquois Valley Farmland REIT, PBC, will please come to order. I am Anna Jones-Crabtree, currently Vice Chairperson of the Board of Directors, and on behalf of the entire Iroquois Valley team, I want to welcome you and express our thanks for your attendance at this meeting. In order to expedite the flow of business, we will begin with formal matters to be voted upon at this annual meeting. After the formal portion of the meeting has been adjourned, several members of Iroquois Valley staff will present on various aspects of the company's business and financials. Notice of this annual meeting was given to all stockholders of record as of close of business on August 1st, 2023. And the preliminary report of Lacey Binns, our Inspector of Elections, is that more than 50% of the voting interest of shares outstanding and entitled to vote are present in person or by proxy at this meeting, constituting a quorum. A quorum being present, this meeting is declared open to proceed with its business. We will now conduct the annual meeting as it relates to the proposals to be voted upon by the stockholders. Item number 1. The Board of Directors favors the election of the following individuals as directors: Arnold Lau, Joseph Mentone, Malaika Mapalala, and Christopher Zuehlsdorff. Mr. Lau, Mr. Mentone, Ms. Mafalafa, and Mr. Zuehlsdorff are nominated to be elected to serve as directors of the company for 3-year terms that would expire in 2026. The board has not received any other nominations in a timely manner. Can I now have a motion to close the nominations, please?
I'm Dr. Steve Rivard, and I move to close the nominations.
Andy Ambriole, and I will second that motion.
Thank you. Nominations are now closed. Next, we will consider the proposal to amend our certificate of incorporation to carry out an 8-to-1 forward stock split and an accompanying increase in authorized shares from 1 million to 3 million. A motion on the proposal is now in order. May I have a motion?
I'm again, Dr. Steve Rivard. I move that the proposal to amend our certification of incorporation to effect an 8-to-1 forward stock split and increase to authorized shares from 1 million to 3 million be approved.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Finally, we will consider the proposed 2023 equity incentive plan that would allow the company to grant equity awards to eligible employees, directors, consultants, and advisors of the company or any of its parents, subsidiaries, or affiliates. A motion on the proposal is now in order. May I have a motion?
Again, Dr. Steve Rivard. I move that the proposal of the 2023 equity incentive plan be approved.
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Dr. Rivard and Mr. Ambriole. There are no other items on the agenda that require a vote. So we will now proceed to vote on the election of directors and the two proposals. If you have already submitted your proxy, no further action is needed unless you wish to change your vote. Thank you to everyone who has voted already. We are very pleased with the response through our online voting system this year. According to the preliminary report of the Inspector of Elections, each of the persons nominated to be a director of the company has been elected. Congratulations to everybody. In addition, the preliminary report shows that 57% of the outstanding shares have voted in favor of the proposed amendment to their certificate of incorporation and the 2023 Equity Incentive Plan. So both of those proposals have passed. Thank you to everyone who voted, and we are excited to utilize these important tools to continue to make ownership of Iroquois Valley accessible to a broad range of stakeholders. The Inspection of Elections will complete a final tabulation and certify election results following the close of business today. Final vote counts will be announced via a public filing with the SEC. All planned matters for this meeting have been completed, and there being no additional business to properly come before this meeting, the formal meeting is therefore adjourned. So before I turn things over to Chris, I want to offer one more reflection and mention a few housekeeping points. When I came on the board 2 years ago, there was a lot of fantastic vision, but also some room to mature. Through our leadership transition, the board has been a consistent, steady force. Fast forward to today, and we have formally chartered committees for finance, governance, and farmer sustainability. This is in addition to the longstanding investment committee. My thanks to Dee Dee Berlin, who graciously took on the governance committee chair. That committee is currently leading us through an assessment to inventory our skills, capacities, the backgrounds we have, and where we have gaps. This will inform our strategy for cultivating a strong and highly functioning board as we look to the future. I also want to acknowledge the significant service of Joe Mantone. He has facilitated many exchanges as our change navigator, and it's been a real pleasure to be part of a board that isn't afraid of the work that we have in front of us. I'm really excited to continue to learn from all of you as we nurture our role in transforming agriculture for the better. Finally, as Dr. Rivard noted, we will have time for Q&A following the presentation. So please submit any questions you have via the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen throughout the meeting. It's now my real pleasure to hand this meeting to Chris Zuehlsdorff, member of the board and CEO. Chris joined Iroquois Valley a year ago and has been in the position for 6 months as CEO. In 1 year, or just one season, you might say, Chris has made a tremendous impact in building momentum and moving us forward into the next era. When I met Chris in his interviews, he clearly had a real passion for making positive change happen, and I was really struck by his commitment to pivoting his life specifically to work in organic agriculture. I'm already really looking forward to what next year brings, and so let me hand this over to Chris to share some results and preview what's to come. Chris, take it away.
Thank you, Anna. It is an honor to steward the company that Dave and Steve co-founded as we embark on this next phase of growth. Doc and Anna, your comments make it clear that we need to fix our food system and transform agriculture through organic farming for the health of people, communities, and our planet. We need to pursue this mission with a sense of purpose and urgency. We will need the support of all of our stakeholders, our investors, to provide the capital to enable the transformation, our organic farmers, who are the best stewards of the land, and our team, who execute our mission every day. This will enable the growth and impact we are all seeking. I'm going to review our financial results, discuss our strategic growth plan, provide an update on our leadership team, and discuss the importance of ongoing investment in philanthropic capital to achieve our vision. We are fortunate to be in a position of financial strength and stability as we pursue our mission. As of June 30th, our key financial metrics demonstrate that strength. I am pleased to report that total portfolio assets are at an all-time high, approaching $100 million. That higher asset base, both owned farms and mortgages, has translated into strong operating performance. Revenues and measures of profitability are also at record highs relative to prior years. Total revenue of $2.2 million for the 6 months ending June 30th, 2023 was 30% greater than the $1.7 million seen for the comparable period in 2022. In addition to the higher rental and mortgage interest income, higher variable rent, grant income, and interest income also contributed. Operating expenses decreased by 12% from $1.4 million as of June 30th, 2022 to $1.2 million in 2023. While employee expenses increased $175,000 due to improved benefits and the addition of 2 new relationship managers, that increase was more than offset by a decline in bad debt expense of $444,000. We were able to successfully resolve 2 workout situations and sell 1 non-performing asset during the 6 months of the year, the first 6 months of the year, excuse me. Interest expense has been stable relative to the last 5 years and is $277,000 year to date through June 30th, relative to $256,000 in 2022. Turning to profitability, net income of $933,000 for the 6 months ended June 30th, 2023 is an increase of $874,000 from 2022. A better measure of our performance is funds from operations, or FFO. Here, FFO is $767,000 as of June 30th, 2023, an increase of $626,000 from 2022. All measures of profitability are at all-time highs. Moving on to our capital structure. Our balance sheet is 100% funded by equity and impact investment notes, providing a competitive cost of capital. Our leverage ratio is stable at 27%, and our interest coverage ratio is 4.9 times, well above the historical range for the company. On the asset side, our portfolio is nearly fully invested, and our cash position is $3.3 million as of June 30th, 2023. We have been able to deliver long-term shareholder value. Long-term returns have been 11.4% over 3 years, 7.2% over 5 years, and 8.4% since inception. Recent performance of 16.5% in 2022 and 11.9% in 2021 has been driven by strong appreciation in farmland, especially in the Midwest, the core of our portfolio. As of June 30th, our portfolio looks like this. We have over 100 investments across 19 states and 30,000 acres. We recently closed on a transaction in Tennessee, so we are now in 20 states. The core of our portfolio is organic row crops in the Midwest, with 2/3 of the portfolio by dollar value in Illinois and Indiana. 55% of the acres in our portfolio are certified organic, and the remainder are transitioning to organic. Looking at product mix on the left, 68% of the portfolio is owned farmland that is leased. 30% is mortgage financing, and 2% is in lines of credit to existing farmers in our portfolio. By production mix, 57% is crop rotation, 18% is diversified operations, meaning 2 or more revenue streams on the farm. 14% is pastured livestock, and 8% is pastured dairy. We have a robust pipeline of opportunities that seems to be growing by the day. We have closed 8 investments through June 30th, totaling $7.4 million, including the Tennessee investment. We're up to 9 and $8.7 million in invested capital this year. Our pipeline is $10 million already, and Q4 tends to be our busiest period. That's our buying season, when farmers bring us the most opportunities. We expect this year to be no different. Having capital to fund our pipeline is key. While the first 6 months have been slow this year, Q4 is historically our strongest period for fundraising, and this year will need to be no different in order to meet the needs of farmers in our pipeline. Building on the strong foundation we have, I want to look forward and discuss our recently completed strategic plan. We went through a 3-month process with the assistance of a strategic consulting firm, Junction. The entire team, both staff and board, participated. It was incredibly valuable for the organization to undertake this effort. In speaking with investors earlier this year about our strategic planning process, several of you said, think big, be bold. That is exactly what we are doing, and we will need support from all of our stakeholders to achieve that vision. Our updated vision is an agricultural system transformed through land stewardship, rooted in organic farmland for the health of people, communities, and our planet. I want to pause and let that sink in. It speaks to the systems level change we are seeking to achieve. We will do that through our ongoing commitment to organic farmers by providing them with innovative financial solutions for which we are well known. Lastly, it speaks to the kind of impact we want to have on the environment, the communities we serve, and human health. This ambitious vision requires investment in building certain key capabilities within the organization, investment in our team, in our processes and systems to support growth. It also requires capital to grow our portfolio, to expand our outreach to farmers, and to build a critical mass of organic farmland in North America. We want to build a large, diverse portfolio and remain farmer focused. Fundraising is the key to success of Iroquois Valley. We have been raising between $10 million and $15 million per year in recent years. I would like to more than double that pace to $25 million to $50 million per year over the next 3 years. We are fortunate to have a broad and diverse group of investors that we will continue to draw on for support. We also want to expand our relationships with other mission-aligned organizations to further our capital base. We believe the long-term thesis that owning a diversified portfolio of organic farmland can provide both financial returns and impact. This continues to resonate with both existing investors and potential investors that I speak with. As Dr. Rivard and Dr. Jones-Crabtree said, our work is more critical and more important now than ever. We want to build on our legacy of providing innovative financial products and services to our farmers. We already provide purchase leases and mortgage financing to farmers. Long-term, Iroquois Valley will become a provider of integrated capital to support farmers. This could include grants and equity investments in addition to the debt and purchase leases we currently provide. One step in that process is to facilitate the flow of philanthropic funds directly to farmers. Iroquois Valley has become the sole member of Healing Soils Foundation, a 501c3 public charity that Dr. Rivard and Dave Miller started several years ago with the support of founding board members Julie Ristow of Sharing Our Roots and Tara Brockman of The Land Connection. The goal is very simple: get more funds to more organic farmers to support them in their work. We administer one successful program already due to investor support, the Soil Restoration Pool. Moving this program to Healing Soils Foundation would allow us to raise donor funds directly into the pool and support a broader range of farmers and allow the program to endure. Healing Soils Foundation received 2 large grants from General Mills and the Ceres Trust, in addition to other individual donations, and we expect more opportunities to partner with other grant-making institutions going forward. In the last 18 months, with the support of Healing Soils Foundation board members Wes Gerald of Prairie Fruits Farm and Creamery, and Healing Soils Chair Joe Mantone, Healing Soils Foundation has awarded more than $700,000 of grants directly to farmers. While Healing Soils is independent from Iroquois Valley Farmland REIT, it is of strategic importance to better align the two organizations with the goal of getting more funds to more farmers. I'm confident in our team to continue to develop innovative products to serve our farmers and our investors. One example of that is our recently launched Rooted in Regeneration Impact Investment Note. It is a natural evolution responding to a particular underserved demographic within the organic farming community, socially disadvantaged farmers, who are primarily Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Historically, BIPOC farmers have faced significant barriers to accessing financing while overwhelmingly using organic farming practices. According to a 2021 Congressional Research Service report, socially disadvantaged farmers represent 4.5% of all farmers in the US in 2017, compared to 13.3% in 1900. We are proud to expand our support for borrowers to achieve greater impact. Investors in the Rooted in Regeneration notes divert a portion of their return to a pool that provides discounts on the mortgage interest rate to eligible and participating farmers. Eligible farmers must be engaged in conservation practices and classified as socially disadvantaged under the USDA definition. Another important initiative is farmer equity. We believe organic farming has both financial and environmental value, and that value should be shared with farmers who are not always able to access that value themselves. As part of our Conservation Innovation Grant, our farmer relations team is creating a task force to work directly with farmers on a possible mechanism for farmers to earn equity and participate in the value creation process. As it relates to our team, there are several exciting updates to our leadership team that I want to share with investors. First, Claire Massesson has been promoted to Chief of Staff. Claire will manage several important strategic initiatives across the organization. This is a cross-functional role that builds on the success Claire had leading our farmer relations effort. Andy Ambriole has been appointed Managing Director, Farmland Investments. Andy is a successful organic farmer in his own right, familiar with our organization and our portfolio, and in his role will be responsible for all aspects of our farmland investment portfolio. Earlier this year, we added 2 new relationship managers, Drew Blankenbaker and Kavitha Kopa. We are now a team of 13. I joined Iroquois Valley a little over a year ago because of the vision that Dave and Steve had when founding the company. I believe our structure, a public benefit corporation, and a real estate investment trust is the single best way to enable long-term ownership and stewardship of organic farmland, and to do it in the most democratic way possible. It works for all of our stakeholders, our investors, our donors, our farmers, and our team. Farming is hard. Farming is risky, organic farming even more so, given the lack of institutional support that exists on so many levels. I grew up on a family dairy farm in Minnesota and saw firsthand many of the challenges farmers face every day. The challenges ahead of us are large, and we can't do it alone. It will take strategic partners and collaborators, but it is a challenge we must tackle if we're going to transform agriculture. I look forward to speaking with you about the challenges and opportunities in the months ahead as I visit many of our investors and farmers. I'd like to thank our investors, our donors, our farmers who are the best stewards of the land, and our team for their commitment to the mission. Thank you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Andy Ambriole.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you to everyone who's joined us today. I started my affiliation with Iroquois Valley in 2012 by leasing 120 acres and transitioning the farm to organic row crops. During the next decade, I witnessed Iroquois Valley grow from a small handful of farmers to 67 today. I started serving on the board in 2016 and most recently served as interim CEO last year. It's great to be back in the new role to support Chris and to help lead the team as we work towards our goal of more organic farms and more organic farmers. Although there have been several changes at Iroquois Valley in the past few years, the greatest consistency has been our farmers. They continue to relentlessly care for the soil day in and day out. Because of our farmer-focused strategy, they will continue to do so year in and year out for generations to come. I would like to take a few minutes at first here to update you on some of the unique potential challenges and opportunities our farmers have faced over the past year. As we watch the news, some of the headlines are having a direct impact. Inflation and rising interest rates continue to increase expenses for needed farm supplies like equipment, fuel, repair parts, seed, and family living expenses. We are able to offer farmers consistent rates because our rates directly relate to our cost of capital, not third-party indexes. High synthetic fertilizer prices drove more conventional farmers to seek alternative fertility sources. This increased the price and reduced availability for natural fertility sources like manure that organic farmers rely on. Fortunately, organic farmers who depend upon legume cover crops as their primary nitrogen source were unscathed when synthetic nitrogen sources such as anhydrous ammonia and urea set record prices in late 2022. The war in Ukraine has disrupted world wheat supplies, and consequently, there have been large swings in price. At times, the conventional wheat market has surpassed the price of the organic market. This has created better than normal profitability for the wheat crop, but has made market timing challenging. The organic soybean market has seen large price fluctuations from trade bans on imports from India. Imports continue to drive domestic market prices for organic corn and soybeans. We desperately need more organic acres and organic farmers, so we're not so reliant upon importing organic grains. Cattle, sheep, and goats continue to bring record market prices. Our nation's cow herd size is at a 50-year low. This is good news for established farmers with animals to sell, but high prices along with high interest rates make it extremely difficult for farmers wanting to increase their herd size or purchase replacement stock. While there are significant challenges for organic farmers, the opposite side of the coin provides opportunity for every challenge faced head-on. As this chart illustrates, the need is great and the demand for healthy organic food continues to grow consistently year over year. I'm excited now to spotlight 4 of our farmers today and to showcase the large diversity of farms we help to support. The first 2 farmers will showcase our integrated capital approach involving various outside partners. The last 2 represent our more traditional farmers that comprise the majority of the portfolio. Each farm identifies an area of focus and combined are a good representation of our entire portfolio. Our first farmer we want to highlight is Reynaldo Hazlet Marroquin. Iroquois Valley, with the help of the Healing Soils Foundation, has taken a broad view in supporting the ecosystem of farm and food systems driven by Rehi. Rehi is an indigenous farmer from the rainforests of Guatemala, later immigrating to the Midwest savanna. Rehi has worked to support a regenerative and humane system of farming and poultry production through research, training, and support by the Regenerative Ag Alliance. In 2021, Iroquois Valley helped Rehi purchase his own 70-acre Salvaterra farm, with Iroquois Valley providing a mortgage. Rehi immediately began to install a permaculture-based hazelnut, elderberry, and a diverse pasture-based savanna for diverse crops and humane poultry production. Healing Soils Foundation then stepped in and worked with General Mills, the Non-GMO Project, and other donor supporters, providing $250,000 in grant funds to build 3 production poultry units and also to supply startup working capital at Salvaterra. The production models will demonstrate and expand Rehi's vision to provide equitable earnings to hundreds of family farmers who are immigrants, people of color, and new farmers. This will support a holistic ecosystem with goals to eventually provide 5% of meat poultry products in the United States and transition over 1,000 acres to organic production. The processing, marketing, and distribution of this system will be through a new venture called Tree Range. Iroquois Valley has stepped forward to make a $100,000 equity investment into Tree Range. While this is our first equity investment, this investment will help build the infrastructure needed to drive more farmers to our traditional land leases and mortgages. This is the first of many opportunities for Iroquois Valley to expand its integrated capital solutions to help our farmers expand their impact. The next farmers we want to highlight is Rachel and Chris Jones of Locavore. In 2022, Iroquois Valley helped Rachel and Chris Jones move their dreams forward to relocate their 5-acre agritourism farm to Table Enterprise to a new 40-acre Sumac Creek farm down the road in Grant Park, Kankakee County, Illinois. You may be familiar with this farm if you attended the dinner after our annual meeting last year. This new site was equipped with buildings and infrastructure to significantly expand their educational programming and organic food production systems. Dave Miller guided Rachel and Chris through the process of creating a community capital raising campaign, soliciting investment from the community they built over the previous 6 years. The goal was to raise 50% of the purchase price of the property. In 4 months, they had exceeded their goal and secured a mortgage from Iroquois Valley for the balance. Rachel and Chris needed to complete extensive renovations to the buildings, build a half-mile gravel driveway, and create parking zones. When the Healing Soils Foundation team visited the site, it was clear grant funds were needed to make this dream a reality. We also reached out to Pot Liquor Capital, and they were able to provide a grant and low-interest loan. Pot Liquor Capital is a social justice charitable loan fund for farmers of color. Healing Soils continued its grant funding in 2023 to help Locavore secure a matching $50,000 grant from the Kankakee County Tourism Board. Locavore is now able to connect over 100 people per week to the importance of organic regenerative agriculture through the Dine on the Land experience at a 100-foot community table. Their expanded education, summer camps, and CSA also impact many children and young adults per year. Locavore has been featured nationally on ABC News and many other regional news and social media channels. This media coverage has expanded their impact even wider for promoting an organic, healthy food system. Our next farmers are the Johnsons. In the winter of 2021, father and son team Corey and Rick Johnson approached Iroquois Valley about a long-term lease around Peatone in Will County, Illinois. The Johnsons are a multi-generation, large-scale farming family growing row crops. The Johnsons have been farming over 1,000 acres conventionally in and around Will County using cover crops and no-till methods. They wanted to continue to improve their profitability, environmental impact, reduce their chemical pesticide use, as well as increase crop diversity by starting to farm organically. Unfortunately, they could not find a landlord willing to give them a long-term lease that would help them feel comfortable making the 3-year transition investment and learning the techniques of organic farming. The Rock Creek farm, consisting of 400 acres in Peatone, was the perfect solution for the Johnson family. The Johnsons began researching and networking with other organic farmers immediately. With advice and support from Iroquois Valley and their new network of organic farmers, they planted their first organic crops at Rock Creek in the spring of 2022. The harvest of organic corn and soybeans was a success. The 2023 harvest looks equally as promising as the Johnsons continue to refine their organic farming skills. With the success at the Rock Creek farm, they are interested in continuing to expand their organic row crop acreage and have requested Iroquois Valley's help in securing additional farmland. Our next farmers are Alan and Shelley Wilson. Alan and his wife Shelley are first-generation farmers. After completing 2 tours in an active combat zone in Iraq, Alan was medically retired from active duty and was stationed at Fort Riley in Kansas. Alan began helping a friend on their family's farm nearby while working on his horticulture degree from Kansas State University. Alan was instrumental in that farm's conversion from conventional to organic. In order to be closer to family, Alan and Shelley decided to move to Huntington, Indiana and start their own farm. With the help of a beginning farmer loan from the USDA, they were able to purchase a 140-acre former Conservation Reserve Program farm that was able to be certified organic immediately. Alan was referred to Iroquois Valley as he sought to grow the farm's acreage. In the fall of 2022, Alan was able to locate another 90-acre farm for sale in the neighboring county. This additional Rowan farm in Wabash County, purchased by Iroquois Valley and leased to the Wilsons, has helped them to put down firm roots for their startup operation. They continue to seek additional land as their farm continues to grow. These are just a small snapshot of the farmers in our portfolio. I wish time would allow us to share the story of each and every one, as they are unique, but all share in the responsibility of being caretakers of the soil, therefore leading to healthy people, healthy communities, and a healthy environment. I want to thank investors like you for not only believing in us, but taking the additional step of entrusting us with your capital. Your actions really do help support our life-affirming and life-critical work. I would also ask that you consider increasing your stake in Iroquois Valley as we move forward to exponentially expand our impact. I would also ask that you consider directing some of your charitable dollars to the Healing Soils Foundation. Together, our impact will transform agriculture for the better. I will now hand off to Donna Holmes, our Vice President of Investor Relations. She will be stewarding our question and answer period. Donna, over to you.
Thank you, Andy. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to host today's Q&A session, and I look forward to hearing your questions. As Anna mentioned, please ask any questions through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We did receive a few questions in advance, so I'd like to start with a couple of those. I'm going to direct this first question to Anna. Anna, how do you measure the impact that you are making?
Thanks, Donna. Make sure I get off of mute here. So how do we measure our impact? That's a really great question, because organic farming is a system. So this is of really critical importance, especially as we launch our strategic plan. We're focusing on 5 key areas. 1's our farmers, 2 is the environment, 3 is our investors, 4 is our organization, and 5 is our communities. If you want to learn more, take a look at our public benefit report, which was uploaded to our website last week, and that provides a lot more detailed information. The goal is to make all of these 5 areas compound our impact together. A specific example is our annual soil health survey that we conduct. So we send a request to all of our farmers to tell us about the practices that they're using to improve soil health on the land they manage. This is often practices that we've supported through our in-house soil restoration pool grant program. And we can roll those up into putting some detail into our public benefit report. We're also partnering with Earth Economics to expand that survey and look at reporting on ecosystem service valuations, which will be released in a special report later this year.
Great, thank you, Anna. Next, we have a question about our stock split. Chris, maybe you could take this one. How will the 8-for-1 stock split affect the value of my shares?
Sure, thanks, Donna. This stock split doesn't have any direct economic effect on the value of the shares. What will happen after this split is you'll have 8 times the number of shares that you currently hold, and each share will be worth 1/8 of what it is worth now, so approximately $100 a share.
Great, thank you. And Andy, a question that I think you could answer. Do farmers own equity in Iroquois Valley so that they can also share in the appreciation of land values?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some of our farmers do currently own equity shares, and we appreciate them partnering with us. You know, along with every other investors, those shares have appreciated, especially recently. As part of our strategic plan, we are exploring the idea of providing equity sharing with our farmers, and we're in very early discussion processes for that. We've included some of our portfolio farmers in that process, and hopefully over the next maybe 6 months to a year, we can roll out a program with everyone's input.
Great, thank you. Anna, I think I'm going to come back to you with this question. This was submitted today by Karen, and she asks, what do you see as the key risks currently faced by Iroquois Valley farmers, and what steps are they taking to mitigate them?
Oh, good question. So the risks are varied, since we have a varied portfolio. And I think that's one of the main benefits of being in Iroquois Valley, is that the portfolio of farmers and farmland we have reaches across, I think, 20 different states now. So I'd say the risk is that it's really about climate change. And you know, while we may be too dry on my farm, there are other farms that are definitely too wet or moist. So part of mitigating that risk is to have a diverse portfolio, but also to be with farmers over it in the long run, and then connect with healing soils so that we're balancing the work that farmers are doing over the long run.
Great.
Hopefully that answered the question, Donna.
Yes, thank you very much.
We can come back.
Don't go away, and I have another one for you. And bear with me, this is a long question, but I think reading the whole thing is meaningful, so I will. I know the Farm Bill is up for reauthorization over the next several months, with potential opportunities to shift more away from incentivizing harmful practices and toward regenerative and ecologically beneficial practices, and to increase funding for conservation and equity programs. Does Iroquois Valley engage in any way on advocating for changes in the Farm Bill? Seems good for legislators to hear from actual farmers who support such changes.
Yeah, thanks for that question. The Farm Bill is a tremendously large piece of legislation that drives not only our farming system here in the US, but our food system. So SNAP benefits are included in the farming bill. So it's really important that everybody get to know your farm bill and what's in it. The National Sustainable Ag Coalition has a tremendous set of resources around farming and is advocating as a group of organizations in support of better opportunities in the Farm Bill. Iroquois Valley directly is a very small team. We don't have the capacity to lobby directly, but we support organizations that are lobbying on behalf of organic farmers, such as the Organic Farming Research Foundation. And many of our farmers in the portfolio are making their voices heard in Washington. I have been to Washington and advocated. We're lucky in Montana. We have Senator Tester, who is an organic farmer, I think the only farmer in the Senate. But we have also on our operation supported our young member Paul, who's integrated grazing, brought integrated grazing to us. He's now an officer in the local farmers union group and has gone to DC directly to talk about policies. I know that USDA is providing a tremendous amount of resources recently, much of this through the Inflation Reduction Act. So the transition to organic partnership program, the TOP program has some significant funding. The Agricultural Marketing Service just offered $75 million in market development grants specifically for organic. So those are some of the things we're doing. It's really about supporting our farmers to have their voices heard. That's the most effective way that I believe to make some change. And happy to talk more about that because I know it's a big thing. Thanks, Donna. Great,
thanks, Anna, and thank you, Kathy, for that thoughtful and timely question. Chris, I think I have a question from Karen. She asks, what will success look like for the Rooted in Regeneration notes, and how do you measure that success?
Yeah, great question. So just as a reminder, I guess, or by way of background, the R&R node is structured very similarly to the soil restoration notes that we had issued. So investors in the R&R node are lending money to Iroquois Valley at a fixed interest rate, and we'll make interest payments twice a year and then repay principal at maturity. And a portion of that interest payment is contributed into a pool. And in this case, funds in the pool are going to be used to provide discounts on mortgages to socially disadvantaged farmers. And so I think like one measure of success will be the capital that we raise, and we're targeting 25 million for the R&R note. More capital means a larger pool to support socially disadvantaged farmers through the discounts that I mentioned previously. And I think another key indicator of success, or a measure of success, will be establishing partnerships and kind of networking with other organizations working on the ground. so we can support them and farmers in their specific regions in their work. Kavitha Kopa is spearheading this program and has been doing a great job building inroads and networking with organizations. So that will be another key measure of our of success as well.
Thank you, Chris. We have a two-part question from Tom, and Andy, I'm going to direct the first part of the question to you, and that is, are Iroquois Valley farmers engaged in no-till or minimal-till farming?
Yes, not necessarily every farmer, but I know some of our farmers are definitely doing some no-till. I will add that is mainly a rotational no-till. It's not a continuous no-till, as it's very difficult to control weeds in the absence of chemical herbicides without doing at least a little bit of tillage at some point in the rotation. But yeah, as a long-term rotation, we have several farmers that have successfully been able to do organic no-till. And I would also add that the vast majority of our farmers are engaged in what I would call minimal tillage. That means using tillage sparingly and only when it's required to either terminate a cover crop or to prepare a seed bed for the oncoming crop. Most of our farmers are seeding cover crops, and there's not long periods of fallow like you see as the dominant practice, especially in the Midwest, of fall tillage with bare soil all winter long, and then additional tillage in the spring before planting. The vast majority of our farmers have a cover crop growing during that time, therefore following minimal tillage practices.
Thank you, Andy. And Anna, the second part of that question is, why does Iroquois Valley emphasize organic more than regenerative?
Certainly, Donna. Definitely a growing, confusing topic area for especially if you're a consumer. How do you look at packaging on your food? What's natural? What's sustainable? What's regenerative? Iroquois Valley has organic farming as the base. We believe that food and land care should be done without chemical and things like herbicides and pesticides. The other thing about organic farming is there's actually a legal definition about organic farming. It is a USDA program with a standard that's established in the Code of Federal Regulations. Organic farmers require that their system be reviewed annually, and there's some legal enforcement around that. So organic certification is a requirement, a baseline requirement for being in our portfolio. Now, many of our farmers are going above and beyond organic and the base of that standard. I saw there was a question, Donna, about Real Organic Project, and as on our farm, we're also Real Organic Project certified, and I would highly suspect I should go find the data on that, but I bet a bunch of our other 67 farmers in the portfolio are also Real Organic Project certified. You have to be organic certification, you have to hold an organic certification to be Real Organic Project certified. But bottom line is regenerative farming is really ambiguous and it can have different meanings to different people. We've had neighbors who are chemical fallow no-till, and they believe that they're regenerative because they're no-tilling. I think that's part of what we have to do in Iroquois Valley is stick to the organic because it's a practice standard.
Thank you, Anna. Chris, I have a question for you, and this comes from Charles. What specific initiatives are contemplated or underway to increase fundraising?
Thanks, Donna. Yeah, a big part of the strategic plan obviously contemplates increased fundraising at a higher pace, and we want to really expand relationships that we have with our existing investor base, it's been large, diverse investor base. We'll continue to draw on those investors for support. We've been fortunate to work with a number of registered investment advisors and socially responsible investment organizations. As that segment continues to grow, we'll look to that area as further opportunity for fundraising. And one area that we're quite keen to explore more deeply is partnering with like-minded and kind of mission-aligned organizations that act more like maybe institutional investors, so foundations, endowments, other organizations like family offices that may have larger pools of capital from which we can begin to engage with longer-term conversations to kind of further some of our fundraising efforts. And a key focus of mine, kind of in Q4, will to begin to engage with on a wider basis with our existing investor base, as well as working with Donna on some of the other prospective investors that we feel will be very interested in learning more about our work.
Great, thank you. And Chris, stay right there, because I have another one, another question for you. Are the rates that you charge farmers increasing, given the current increasing interest rate environment? Not
significantly. Our balance sheet, I think, which I highlighted on one of my slides, is funded by equity and impact investment notes. And so that's allowed us to have, a more competitive cost of capital. We don't index to a specific kind of market interest rate or benchmark. And so we can keep interest rates lower, kind of in this environment as a result. The interest rates we charge farmers lower as a result. And so we're seeing this actually play out in increased demand for our mortgage product right now. We're getting the feedback that from more traditional lenders that have to benchmark to, either the LIBOR or US Treasuries, that rates have increased meaningfully, and we're becoming more competitive in that marketplace. And so, obviously investors who support us through our notes are foregoing some of that financial return to help us achieve our impact goals. But that is one way we can keep our cost of capital more competitive. Great, thank you. And we have a question from Greg. It sounds like you have a fairly aggressive growth plans. Do you currently have a large pipeline of potential farmland available for purchase? Andy, would you like to take that one?
Sure thing, and that's a great question. Yes, we do currently have a large pipeline of deals that are either close to closing or in the underwriting stage. We expect, like was mentioned before, usually the fourth quarter is our busiest season as harvest gets underway. That's usually when a lot of farms are either put on the market or transactions are ready to be taken. So we expect a busy fourth quarter, and will probably spill into the first quarter of 2024. Our strategic plan calls for us to increase our engagement in the organic farming community. And so this winter, we will be attending a variety of organic seminars and field days to connect. And that's a big part of my role, is to get that pipeline going and to get some farms bought and mortgages to both new farmers, as well as help our current farmers in our portfolio to expand their own operations when that makes sense for them.
Great, thank you. And Chris, I'm coming back to you with this question, anonymous attendee. Do you see the increased activity in this sphere, for example, Farmland LP, Acre Trader, as threats, or are the models sufficiently different to be complementary?
Thanks, Donna. I think for the most part, most of the collaborators and peers out there are complementary to our work, and I would not view them as threats, especially if they're furthering the work of getting more acres under organic land stewardship. I think in my comments, I mentioned that the idea that we can't do this alone, and that we're going to need a number of collaborators and partners kind of in the broader ecosystem to work with on our mission to transform agriculture. So largely, most of the organizations out there I see as potential collaborators and complementary to our work, and not kind of direct threats or direct competitors.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And I have another question from Larry that you could probably answer. Which of the three factors, land, farmers, or capital, are most needed?
Right now, it's probably capital. As Andy mentioned, we have an incredible pipeline that our farmer relations team has been building over the last several months and putting into place. And so we're going to need capital in order to put that to work, both acquiring farmland and facilitating mortgage financing for our farmers. But it is a very symbiotic relationship, right, of capital, farmers, and land in order to make our work all possible. And of course, we need the investors to support us in that endeavor.
Great, thank you. Anna, I have a question from Richard. Given that animal agriculture, particularly cattle and pork and sheep and lamb, has a negative impact on climate change, do you plan to reduce investment in animal agriculture?
That was for me, right, Donna?
Yes, thank you.
I will just say that Iroquois Valley, we do not invest in CAFOs, confined animal feeding operations. We invest in operations that have livestock integrated as part of the overall farming system or are pasture-based. So I would say, we're screening. We're not gonna not invest in animal agriculture, because animals and plants together are an important part of making a whole intact ecosystem. But we're very careful in which animal agriculture operations we do invest in.
Great. Andy, a question for you. What is Iroquois Valley doing to support agroforestry?
Yeah, another great question. So we have numerous farmers in our portfolio that are using agroforestry as well as other conservation practices in and around their farms. We really help to support that work along with the help of the Healing Soils Foundation that has given grants to many of our farmers to help integrate agroforestry, conservation buffers, and things of that nature on their farms. Probably the best example of that would be one of the farms that we highlighted earlier, Rehi and his Salvatierra farm. They have done a great job of integrating agroforestry along with livestock. Like I said, many of our other farmers have also are either on the beginning stages or have implemented some of those types of practices.
Great, thank you. And a question from Nancy, another long one. Given that hydroponic got itself included in the definition of organic, and given that the Real Organic Project, a wonderful organization, is working so hard to make sure that soil-based farming is highlighted in what real organic means, are you adding your voice to this important differentiation? Public needs to be educated in this, especially since it's so confusing with many labels now. Anna, would you like to take that?
Sure, I can. Yeah, it is very confusing, but I'll just be pretty clear. At Iroquois Valley, we invest in farmers that work with soil.
Thank you. And Anna, I think you can maybe take this one too, from Karen. Are conservation easements part of the strategic plan? Why or why not?
Oh, was that still me? Donna, sorry.
Yes, please. No
I'm
problem.
trying to manage the mute here. The question was on conservation easements.
Yes.
So I don't believe that we've named them specifically in the strategic plan. However, we do look at each farm investment opportunity that comes our way and the whole package. And I know that we've had several farms that have had conservation easements that can make the financing definitely work better. And it's something that we're very attuned to and watching.
Great.
No.
Thank you.
Donna, may I just make a comment quickly on the last question about hydroponics?
Of course.
The critical importance of organic food has to do with nutrient density, and nutritional density, which is almost completely lacking in the food that we're eating today en masse, is secondary to the root systems that the plants make and in the soil. And the healthier the soil, the more quality of nutrient can be uptaken by the roots of the plant. If you don't have soil, you sacrifice nutrient density, which is critical to human health. So in my perspective, having organic soil as the basis for food systems is absolutely important.
Great. Thank you, Steve, for that addition. I think, Andy, I'm going to come to you with a question from Joan. Have any of your pasture farmers considered solar panels to provide shade for animals in the pasture?
Yes, that's a really good consideration, and there is a lot of activity in the solar industry today. There's a lot of proposed projects across the country. It's one thing that Iroquois Valley is considering at this time. It's not something that we have currently on any of our own land, but there are some proposals under consideration that would include putting a small percentage of our own land under solar panels, and that would most definitely include integrating livestock and grazing those acres as well. It seems to be a good synergy and something that we can look into in the future.
Great. And Andy, I have another question for you from Andrew. To what extent do your farms explore, and it's related, combo use with wind solar installations? And have you considered biodigesters that can produce methane for energy?
Yes, we currently have at least one farm under wind contract options. That option has not been exercised, and it looks like it probably will not be. But there are, like I said, in the opportunities with solar, there are many proposed projects across the countryside. A lot of it comes down to infrastructure as to whether those projects will or won't be completed. But it's definitely something that we are exploring, and it's something that by no means are we going to turn the entire portfolio into wind or solar farms, but in certain situations where it makes sense, a small percentage of our portfolio may end up in some sort of alternative energy.
Thank you, Andy. And Chris, you touched on this next question, but just a little bit. So I would like to ask you to expand. The question is from Tom, and he asks, does Iroquois collaborate with organizations such as Slow Money, Mad Ag, Steward, RSF, Social Finance, and others who are also committed to local organic regenerative farming and creating a healthy and equitable food system?
Yes, we absolutely collaborate and partner with those organizations and others that were not mentioned. I can think of several examples of farmers where we may provide the land access either through mortgage financing or purchase lease, where there may be an operating line through Mad Agriculture or Mad Capital, for example. And so, broadly speaking, those organizations and others that were not listed kind of fit into this ecosystem, and together we can deliver and provide farmers integrated capital. And so it's key that we continue to partner and collaborate with those types of organizations going forward.
Great, thank you. And I think we have one more question. We did receive a couple very specific questions and one or two that require lengthy answers. So we will get back to you following the meeting. But Chris, I have one question I think left for you, and that is what is the best investment in Iroquois Valley that I can make right now?
Oh, great question. So I believe equity is the best option for investors looking to maximize financial return and impact. We have a large pipeline to fund, and we can deploy equity very efficiently into new farmland and mortgage to support farmers. The R&R note is also a great option for targeted support of socially disadvantaged farmers. So Kavitha is building a great network and program to really create impact and support farmers through our note and the pool that note funds. That's another great way to invest in Iroquois Valley. Obviously, the impact note has a range, I believe it's from 4% to 2% in terms of the interest rate that charges. And one new area for investors that have philanthropic capital that they want to support organic agriculture, a donation to Healing Soils Foundation is also a great option to directly support farmers.
Wonderful. I think that is all. Thank you all very much for those great questions. And again, we will follow up with any that we didn't get to. Chris, I think I'll turn it back to you. I think you have a few closing comments.
Thank you, Donna. I would like to thank everyone for attending this year's annual meeting. I'd also like to thank Dave and Steve for the vision for founding Iroquois Valley. With the team we have in place, I'm excited to steward the organization as part of the next generation. There's a tremendous opportunity in front of us on our mission to transform agriculture for the benefit of the planet, our communities, and human health. As Anna mentioned, only 1% of farmland is certified organic. It's going to take the support of all of our stakeholders. And as I mentioned, I look forward to speaking with many of you in the weeks and months ahead. You will receive a survey requesting feedback on today's annual meeting, along with a recording via email. We welcome your feedback. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Donna or Lacey or email us at invest@iroquoisvalleyfarms.com. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.